For months, the Raiders' quarterback experiment felt like a quiet sell, an optimistic handshake around a table, a vote of confidence in a veteran who had quietly rebuilt a career. Now, 5 games into the season, it's clear that quiet confidence has become a glaring problem. Geno Smith was supposed to stabilize Las Vegas. Instead, he's presiding over a unit that looks broken on offense, riddled with turnovers, and painfully short on upside. If the Raiders are serious about reversing course, they need to treat this as an emergency. And yes, that means acting like a franchise searching for a difference maker rather than clinging to a stopgap. Let's be blunt. Geno Smith's numbers this year read like a starter in decline, a league-leading 9 interceptions through 5 games, poor decision-making in critical situations, and too many drives ending in punts or giveaways. That's not a fluke. It's a trend. Some of the blame lands squarely on the offensive line, which has been unable to consistently protect and pave lanes. Colton Miller's move to injured reserve exacerbated an existing problem, but the line struggles don't fully explain all the picks or the miscues. Talent, timing, and trust all matter. And right now, this offense has very little of those three. Pete Carroll's honesty about his own bewilderment is telling. He expected a fast lift. Instead, he's dealing with the raw reality of roster fits and unmet expectations. History offers useful reminders. Carroll's best work in Seattle didn't happen overnight. He survived awkward seasons and personnel misses before Russell Wilson arrived and flipped the franchise. That caveat is important. Patient culture building can yield success, but there's a difference between patient construction and clinging to a combustion engine that's misfiring. At 35, Geno Smith is closer to the end of his arc than the beginning. This defensive-minded Raiders rebuild shouldn't hinge on the prospect of Smith rediscovering vintage form. Tom Brady's presence in the organization complicates the optics. He reportedly had a hand in endorsing the move to sign Geno over other options. Brady's preference gave the front office confidence, and perhaps it felt like a low-risk path. Veteran quarterback, play-action-friendly scheme, steady leadership. Yet that decision, in hindsight, looks like a gamble with long odds. You can respect Brady's football brain while acknowledging that personal preference should not override long-term planning. The Raiders needed a bridge quarterback at most, someone to buy time while the team developed or acquired a true franchise option. Smith was sold as more than a bridge. The results now make that claim untenable. What should the Raiders do? There are 3 practical pathways, and none of them is comfortable. Option 1, continue to lean on Geno and hope the offensive line heals, the receivers sink, and Smith regains rhythm. That's plausible, but improbable. Option 2, cut bait sooner rather than later and pivot to a younger, cheaper vet or a rookie starter by trade or draft. Option 3, use the rest of the season to ready themselves to spend a high draft pick on a top college quarterback in 2026. If the team's leadership is committed to long-term competitiveness, the third path is the only one that promises sustained upside. This isn't just about winning a few more games this season. It's about identity. Kansas City committed to Patrick Mahomes and reaped generational rewards. The Chargers bet on Justin Herbert and have built around a young architect. Denver swung for Bo Nix. The modern NFL rewards organizations that embrace the quarterback calendar identify, draft, and develop. The Raiders' hesitance to take that leap in 2024 was a gamble that they could build around a veteran starter while plugging the game's most vital role with short-term solutions. That plan is now collapsing. Yes, talent evaluation is messy, and no draft pick is guaranteed. You can point to counterexamples where early picks stalled, but the opportunity cost of not picking is real. When you pass on the quarterback market, you force yourself into middling alternatives, trades that cost premium assets, chase the veteran signings, or repeated short-term stopgaps. None of those are recipes for sustained success. If the Raiders want to compete in a divided AFC West that includes Mahomes and the Chargers' rising core, they need a long-term answer at quarterback. That means spending draft capital, engaging in high-level scouting, and being willing to trade up if the right player is within reach. If Tom Brady is genuinely invested in building the Raiders the right way, the clock is ticking. He has influence, credibility, and a 7-month runway before the 2026 draft cycle heats up. If he wants to be a difference maker beyond locker room pep talks, now is the time to leverage that platform. Help the scouting department, open doors with college evaluators, and push for a coherent plan to chase a true franchise quarterback. Sitting on the sidelines and hoping for Geno to reset is not a plan. It's a prayer. This franchise is at a fork. One road leads to another season of splintered attempts. Change coaches, reshuffle assistants, sign another veteran, watch another middling finish. The other road is harder. Admit the shortfall, evaluate the draft class aggressively, be willing to spend the capital to move up, and accept that growing pains will follow. The latter path is disruptive and expensive, but that's what winning franchises do. They accept short-term discomfort to secure long-term relevance. Look at what Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Philadelphia managed to build by making decisive quarterback commitments. There's also truth in how quickly narratives harden. Fans and pundits are already writing obituaries for the 2025 Raiders. That's fair. Performance merits judgment. But the Raiders can change the story. They must move from reactive hope to proactive construction. That requires ownership clarity, front office courage, and coaching willingness to commit to a developmental timetable. It also requires honest accountability for past mistakes, including the decision to prioritize a veteran's feel over long-term architecture. Geno Smith is a fine pro with a respectable career arc, but he is not the franchise answer. Treating him as such will only prolong what's already a problematic season. If Brady wants to be more than a celebrity advisor, if Carroll wants to reshape his legacy beyond one difficult NFL comeback, and if the front office wants to avoid another wasted year, they should stop pretending this is a solvable short-term puzzle. It isn't. It's strategic. Start the hard work now. Scout every top college quarterback. Be willing to trade up. Reevaluate the offensive line as a multi-year project rather than a season-to-season patch. And crucially, acknowledge that quarterback transitions are rarely tidy. They're messy, expensive, and often humbling. But they're the only reliable path out of a 1-4 hole when your current starter is trending downward and your division is stacked. The Raiders still have a choice. Keep patching and hope for small miracles, or make a decisive commitment to a quarterback-led future. If they choose the latter, the next months should not be spent in wishful thinking. They should be spent in preparation, because the 2026 quarterback class won't wait, and neither will the rest of the league. For the skeptics, Sunday's 40-6 drubbing by the Colts was validation. The Geno Smith experiment in Las Vegas is failing. A 1-4 start isn't just an early stumble. It looks increasingly like the unspooling of a plan that never had a firm foundation. Smith's interception total, 9, by far the league high, has ballooned over the past 2 weeks. The offensive line has repeatedly left him exposed, and plays that should be routine have too often become disasters. Even Pete Carroll, a coach with decades of resume-worthy highs, admitted he's struggling to reconcile expectations with reality. There are reasons to have hoped. Smith arrived with a reputation as a competent veteran, one who could steady a young roster and help install a culture shift. Carroll and the organization evidently believed enough in him to make a multi-year financial commitment. Reports even say Tom Brady preferred Smith over other free agent options. But confidence and fit are different things. At 35, Smith isn't the long-term answer. He's looked more like a stopgap, and a shaky one at that. Some blame is unavoidable. The offensive line's injuries and poor play have turned pass protection into a revolving door problem. The skill group has been banged up too. The absence of Brock Bowers, for example, is a material loss. Yet the bigger truth is structural. This feels like the latest iteration in a franchise pattern of renting quarterbacks rather than drafting and developing one. Jimmy Garoppolo, Gardner Minshew, and Aiden O'Connell all served short-term roles that didn't translate into long-term stability. Geno Smith looks to be headed the same way. If the Raiders are serious about fixing this, it's time for bold action. The Chiefs, Mahomes, Chargers, Herbert, and Broncos, Knicks, all showed what committing to a franchise quarterback looks like. If Las Vegas wants to compete consistently in the AFC West, it needs a decision. Keep rotating veteran stopgaps or pivot to a real franchise-building plan. That's where Tom Brady's off-field advisory role and the organization's front office should be focused. If Brady is invested in reviving this franchise, he'll lean into quarterback scouting and development immediately. The 2026 draft is loaded with prospects. The Raiders should be preparing now to be aggressive, whether that means trading up or positioning assets to snag a top prospect. Waiting until the offseason draft board crystallizes would be too late. The team needs a quarterback plan that spans years.